Hello, everyone. I'm Carter Rose. I'm the Client Vertical Sales Lead at Dish Media. A little bit about Dish Media. We offer premium video across both Dish and Sling. I'm joined today by counterpart Chris Rooney, who's also with us, who handles pharma and financial services. We're looking forward to speaking with most of you throughout the day. Very special venue that we're at today, especially for me as a huge auto enthusiast and a big fan of F1. And the Aston Martin brand. So I want to introduce the other people that are on our panel today. Two very accomplished marketers. Joining me is Lyn Fisher, the CMO of Vista Americas, as well as Jessica John, the Chief Strategy Officer of Regent 7 Seas. So if both of you want to just take a minute and tell us a little bit about your background and your roles.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Lyn Fisher, Chief Marketing Officer of the Americas at Vista, where I lead marketing strategies for two of the largest private aviation brands, XO and VistaJet. XO is really looking to transform private aviation by making it more flexible and accessible. And VistaJet is really looking to create an elevated, curated experience in the cabin and outside of the cabin. Most of my career has been working with brands, agencies, and startups at the intersection of innovation and creativity, and I would say disruption. So really great to be here today.
I'm Jessica John. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Regent 7 Seas Cruises. It's an ultra-luxury cruise line at the very high end of the cruise market. My job entails running global marketing, brand and business strategy, and communications for the line.
Great, thank you. Our first question is for Lynn. With private aviation being a highly personalized service, how does Vista use data and insights to anticipate the needs of your clients and thereby exceeding their expectations?
Sure, great question. So at Vista, we really look to deliver bespoke experiences, and much of that is driven by data that we're able to acquire. So a great example of that is for the XO brand, where we continue to evolve a feature called instant booking. So we have an app where we've had about 2 million downloads, and also with our website activity, we saw that private flyers were looking for speed, transparency, and also seamlessness in chartering a private aircraft. So we, in response to that, offered something called instant booking and launched a feature in the XO app. So what that means is I could launch the app, I could look for a destination, I could look for an aircraft class, the date I want to fly, and I will be presented with options, different prices, different aircraft types, and be able to just with the tap of a few buttons, book an aircraft, show up at a private terminal tomorrow, and get on board. So, and this is quite unique in this industry because it's still quite a legacy industry where it could take multiple days, multiple quotes. And so this really transforms it, makes it more innovative, makes it more seamless and modern. And we've seen that not only is it getting attention, but we've seen 3x conversion over other digital booking methods.
Thank you. Jessica, a question for you. How has the luxury cruise market evolved, especially post-pandemic, which significantly impacted the whole industry and many others, as we know? How has Regent adapted to that, and are you using different marketing tools?
Yeah, so when you think about the cruise industry, we were definitely one of the most significantly impacted from COVID. For our company, we had 500 days of zero revenue operations, right? We were just completely on the sidelines, and you can't just park a ship and forget about it. So you still have operations, you still have guests, especially for a brand like ours who had a loyal past guest base, constantly asking us questions, constantly booking their future cruises, and then the goalposts kept moving. But for the luxury cruise market in particular, what ended up happening during that zero revenue period where things just weren't normal, we weren't testing our normal marketing plans, we saw significant growth in the market. So the luxury cruise market increased by 81% between 2019 and 2024, with a huge pipeline ahead. Regent itself, we took on delivery of 2 ships, one of them I think 2 days before the pandemic broke out. And so we had 54% capacity growth over that period. And so when we got back to sort of a normal period, we realized like a lot of what we were doing wasn't working anymore from the marketing side. We had been very heavily invested in print, so print advertising, direct mail that we were sending out, and the production timelines of those, I'm sure many of you know, are so significant that we couldn't adapt and we couldn't really respond to what we saw in the market quickly. So we had to really start to pivot. We had to embrace digital, which I know is something that, for a luxury brand, it took a little bit of convincing, but we definitely had to embrace that to just enhance the speed of market. We had to look into, okay, when should we be sending direct mail? What other formats can we use? We used to send like big brochures, beautiful, absolutely beautiful brochures, but is a postcard okay once in a while, right? For certain things like promotional offers. We started on the creative side. We had to rethink how we did creative. So we were very precious about everything needed to be authentically beautiful, and we had to be on brand on everything. And then we realized, yes, we do, but we also need to figure out how to be faster. So we started creating templates, creating new things that we could use. Again, not for core brand items. We have to pick what we want to be precious about, but some of the things that we need to move quickly, we can have a side channel that we can move things faster. The other thing that we started doing is we have a big travel agent distribution. So the trade channel is huge for us. We weren't equipping them with the tools that they needed to be selling in a new market too. So we started doing things like best practices, what works for us. We know our customer the best. We started sharing that with our travel partners so that they can go out to their bases and be more effective in that way, which helped us as well.
And did you see similar things at Vista?
It's interesting, we had the opposite effect during COVID. We had a boom in private aviation. So kind of interesting, but we also had to pivot from a marketing perspective. But during COVID, we saw increased demand. So interestingly, McKinsey did a study pre-COVID of high net worth individuals that did have the means to fly private. 90% chose not to fly private for whatever reason. That completely changed during COVID, and what we saw is people saw that it was a safer, more secure way to travel. Another McKinsey study shows that there are 700 touch points when you travel commercially, when you're going through TSA, getting to and from the airport. A private traveler has about 20 to 30, so big differences. So what we realized, we were already pretty much invested in digital marketing, but we needed to be stronger in content marketing. How do we describe these features, the safety features of private aviation, not just the luxury aspect, the utility, the safety? And we really grew our business with new flyers. And then we've seen a lot of those flyers staying with us. There was another report done by Private Jet Card Comparisons. New private flyers, 43% of them say they're going to continue to fly private. It's probably not hard to imagine why, but there is a decision to be made, even if you have the means, whether or not you want to invest in that form of travel.
Interesting. Lynn, another question for you is, how is Vista adapting to the evolving landscape of luxury consumption, where affluent consumers are increasingly seeking experiences over products? And how does this shift your marketing narrative?
Sure. So we do think about that at Vista, not just the experience in the jet, which is a big part of our brand marketing, is what happens in cabin. From all of the amount of times that a cabin hosts who are trained by the Butler Academy and know pet CPR as an aside, but it's that high level, high touch service. So that's extremely important. But we also realize, how do we build a community of flyers outside or beyond the jet through their passion points? And so that led us to start something called Private World, which is a program of bespoke experiences, whether it is a secluded retreat or a cultural event that our members can be a part of and where we invite them. This also led us to think about a little bit of our business model and our USP, which is that we're a subscription model. So not fractional like a lot of other companies are. We're a little bit more in the sharing economy, where I think Jessica and our businesses are similar, where you don't always have to own the asset, right, to have this amazing experience. But how do you build a community around it? So we built Private World, but then it also led us to a campaign that's out in market now that with the headline is Own the Experience, Not the Jet. So taking away the burden of ownership, but still saying we'll give you all the benefits of that without the burden of ownership. So I think that's something that's interesting to tap into.
Jessica, same question for you. At Regent, how are you adapting to the evolving landscape of luxury consumption?
Yeah, look, in the travel space, I think when you think about experiences, that's the opportunity for us, right? It is something that is very important for us. Our strapline as a brand is an unrivaled experience. We've been very much moving away from thinking about the product itself, which is very important to have a great product. But it's about that feeling that when you walk away from it, you felt like you had this seamless, this connected, this once-in-a-lifetime experience that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else. So even last week, we were at the shipyard. We're building our newest ship, which is going to be delivered in 2026. And we were on probably like minute 55 of which pillow should go into which suite. And everyone was very heated about it, and we were really upset. And then I had to take a step back, and I was like, guys, I've never seen someone walk away from the ship, and when you ask them about their experience, they comment on the pillow. The pillow just needs to be beautiful and needs to be great, but that's not what they're going to remember and they're going to take away from this. So we need to focus more on the things that make them feel like they got something from this entire experience. That starts from when they start dreaming about their cruise, especially for us as a vacation product. That experience starts from that point of booking, right? When they first contact with your brand, through their reservations, through their flight. How are we helping them with your flights? How are we helping you with your transfers? And then when you get on board. And so even when we think about, this is very much similar to the previous panel, hospitality was another aspect of that experience. So we've actually, one of our brand pillars was personalized service, and don't tell anyone because we didn't change it yet, but we're going to change that to heartfelt hospitality, because we felt that brought this warmth forward of there's something actionable that our crew is doing to make sure that they anticipate your every need. They're getting ahead of all of those wants that you have. They're making sure that they deliver something that is just hard to describe in words. And then in terms of marketing that's really hard to market, right? Because it's something that you experience is really hard to put into words. One of the things that we've been sort of dabbling with and trying to help with that story is influencers, right? Which is not something, again, that we've typically thought of using in the luxury space. But you find the right brand fit, you find the right person, and they're able to actually tell you that experience versus just the product when we have static channels that we can use.
That's a great point, because we also struggle with telling stories, because it's about the moments that we allow for our clients to experience, not just the actual travel, right? So it's milestone moments, different experiences that they have. We're actually working on a campaign now. We're working with an illustrator to do that, because as a private aviation company, a big pillar for us is keeping everything private. And so we don't want to talk about our customers' exact experiences, but how can we describe complex trips that we make seamless? There are examples of it that we don't talk about, like moving hostages, or moving people who are touring to get to the Super Bowl and back. So these are stories that sometimes are talked about in the press, but we can't. So how do we find unique ways to showcase that experience? So it is a challenge in marketing.
Shifting gears a little bit, no pun intended, how does Vista leverage strategic partnerships such as collaborations across motorsport, we mentioned that a little bit earlier, to create unique value propositions?
Sure. So motorsport is an interesting topic here, where we invest in, but I think we don't just think about it as a sponsorship, but how do we work with brands and passion points and events that relate to our brand? So speed, performance, precision. How can we communicate that in other ways? And that's by partnering with motorsports, as an example, or golf. And then it's also allowing our clients to take part in that behind the scenes with the drivers coming to events. So it's a little bit twofold in communicating our brand proposition, but then also building community.
What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So we have a partnership with Aston Martin Formula One, and this is something that we started earlier this year. And for us, it was a lot about, again, creating these once-in-a-lifetime moments for our guests. So having track experiences, having factory tours. We're actually doing a themed spotlight voyage with Aston Martin F1, which is, again, something that they wouldn't be able to get somewhere else. Getting them that behind-the-scenes look into what it's like to run a Formula One team, to be behind the scenes, what a driver day is like. Those are the types of things, like our guests are high-end, affluent guests. They have money to do a lot of things. What can we give them that they're not able to get somewhere else? So we've really loved this partnership, and we loved all that we've been able to deliver just from a guest experience. The awareness, the database sharing, all of that is great, but what can we add that a guest isn't going to be able to get somewhere else has been huge for us. And then not just for our guests, but internally, this partnership has really, really had a huge boost to our internal team, which I think is something that we underappreciated when we had put this partnership together, in terms of it's really like brought some innovation forward in terms of our team getting excited about doing something new. It's sparked in other areas. Oh, well, why don't we try this? Because the answer used to be no, and now there's a lot of answers that are yes. So it's been a great motivator to really pull that together. And then we do things like on board, we have watch parties for some of the races, which again brings that community feeling together where everyone goes there. Even if they're not interested in Formula One, you want to be in the theater with everyone else, and then you start sparking that interest and you start talking about it. We have brought our travel partners that are important to different areas, and they very much, everybody wants to talk. Even our lawyers fought over who gets to work on the Aston Martin Formula One contract. Like that's the extent it was, because they feel like there is something extra there.
Jessica, staying with you, are you seeing a significant shift in expectations of luxury from your guests today versus in the past?
Absolutely. I think when you think about in the past, luxury was very much like we talked about earlier, products over experience. I think what people viewed as what luxury was, you thought of things like gold, ornate, it needs to be really fancy. And now when you think about luxury, I think time is a huge aspect of it, the seamlessness, the convenience, and honestly, fun, right? I think that is something that we shy a little bit away from on the luxury side. When I had first joined the team, we were going to send out a consumer survey of, what are words that you associate with the brand? And we had a list of sophisticated and, elegant, timeless, and I said, like, should we throw on fun? And everybody looked like I dropped another type of F-bomb in the room, like a very just, like, what do you mean? Why would you say that? And I was like, who goes on vacation and doesn't want to have fun, right? That's not something that's normal. They might have a different definition of what fun is and what luxury is, but that's still something that they want to take away from that. So I think that when you think about today's consumer, luxury just has a broader meaning than it did before. You're seeing a generational shift, so we've definitely started talking about younger consumers, but when we say younger, we don't really mean actually younger in age. We mean a new generation is now in that 55, 60 plus. They tend to like things very differently, so they tend to be much more active. So for us, shore excursions and experiences and destinations, they're not happy with a city walking tour, right? They want something that's much more immersive. They want something that allows them to be active when they're on vacation. So we have to kind of figure out how to cater to that different generation in that sense.
Are you seeing similar shifts?
We are, and it's interesting because I was just talking to our team about this, and I'm sure as marketers, people have come across the 12 personalities of brands and associating a brand with a personality type, which we have done that exercise. And interestingly, I think a lot of luxury brands are kind of in the ruler space, right? Where they're dominant brands, they want to rule a category. Where we saw EXO as the innovator brand, so maybe a little bit more like Tesla and Apple to private aviation, and VistaJet as the Sage brand, so a little bit more heritage, knowledgeable, and then how they fit together. So it's interesting to think about, I think, luxury in a different way from a brand personality, but then also to Jessica's point about a consumer that is maybe 55 plus and affluent, but wants a modern approach to travel. It is what we're seeing, especially with like launching things like instant booking. We also have something called crowd sharing on a private jet, where I could buy one seat and then put the rest of the seats on that jet up on our marketplace, and we could all fly, per seat, versus chartering the whole jet. So it makes it more efficient, hopefully making private aviation a little bit more sustainable and more modern.
Jessica, what's one of the biggest challenges you face today from a marketing perspective, and how are you tackling that at Regent?
Yeah, so I think at Regent and probably for all of cruise, I think our biggest challenge is awareness. So there are a lot of people, I think it's less than 2% of the population globally have ever cruised. And so you'll get pockets of people who know what cruise is, and even within that 2%, a lot of them have cruised on different experiences. So if you go on a mass market type of brand, or if you go on a day cruise, you're gonna get a very, very different experience than you would on an ultra luxury cruise brand. So just kind of getting over the one, knowing what a cruise is and putting it in your option set, and then two, understanding what the differences are between different cruise lines and how it could actually fit into what your vacation proposition is. Like we hear all the time things like, it's too crowded, I'd never want to be in a cruise, I don't have enough space. Well, our suites start at 320 square feet up to 4,400. Most people, when I say that, are very confused, right? That's not a cruise line. They say it's the buffet and it's shuffleboard, and that's what a cruise line is. What am I going to do? Nowadays, some of these cruise ships, like one of our mass market line, has 29 different restaurants on board, right? So it's just some of these misconceptions that people just don't understand today that we're trying to figure out how to get across. The value versus land-based is a huge opportunity where we think especially for a line like ours, we're an all-inclusive cruise line. So everything's included, from your food on board, your liquor, your laundry service, your flights, your chauffeur, all of that is included. So you see a value, you see a price, and you don't know how to compare that to a land-based alternative that doesn't include this. Entertainment, that's something like you'd spend a lot of money to go see a Broadway show. You don't consider that Broadway show is included in your ticket price here. So some of the things that we've kind of done outside of the core brand is really try to lean into, for example, things like value comparisons. And that's not something that, again, price and value is usually something we shy away from in luxury, but we have to find the outlets where we can do it. So for example, we've run a value comparison in the Wall Street Journal, because most people reading the Wall Street Journal tend to be a little bit more financially savvy. It's something that's going to resonate for them. Maybe we don't put it in Condé Nast, but we're going to put it in Wall Street Journal. We're going to equip those travel partners with those comparisons, because they can be the spokesperson for the brand, where the brand can kind of stay away from that, but they can go out and say, hey, look, if you were to plan this similar 7-day itinerary or 7-day vacation at a resort in Europe versus what you're getting on Regent, you're going to see a 25% differential in the value. So it's really leaning into that value messaging, not really price, but people who are high-end and affluent, they generally are high-end and affluent because they've figured out a way to find value in things. So we've leaned into that a lot to be able to get over that hump of awareness.
That's interesting. We have similar challenges and I think a lot of it comes to education. Yeah. And for us, we're a unique model in the industry where either someone owns their own jet, or many have a fractional or jet card is common in the industry, which is a fractional is also ownership. It's a piece of an ownership. And ours is completely different. It's an asset light model. So there is education to this as well. And so it's tricky in trying to find ways to describe that message in, let's say, a print ad, where you want a big, beautiful image of the jet, but how do you get across that information? So a lot of how we think about it is brand performance, kind of a connection of brand and performance, where we're also communicating value, unique proposition of our brand, and we do that across print, but we also do that in really tactical channels like PPC, where we're still using brand messaging to build up the brand for long-term effect, even though we're looking for maybe a short-term gain on a lead for someone who's looking to charter an aircraft right away.
Great. I think we're just about out of time, but one closing question for each of you is, what do you see as the next frontier in your industries, and how are you positioning yourselves to lead the way?
Yeah, I think for cruise, a lot of it is making it, especially on the ultra luxury side, I think making it more accessible to more people and that new generation as they travel. Right now, our cruises tend to be 7, 10. 7 is a very low end. It's usually 10 plus. So some of our cruisers are on the ship for a month. As we kind of get to that next generation, I don't think that they generally have the same time and the same value that they put on such an extended vacation. So we're looking at how we can make itineraries that are really interesting and still create that experience, but allow them to go for shorter periods of time in different seasons. The other thing for us is one of the drawbacks for cruise historically has been a lack of immersion, right? So you get to go to a lot of different places, but you don't get to spend much time in each of these different places. So we're rolling out and testing new things, like we have an immersive overnights collection where you have at least one overnight and multiple days in every port. So we focus more on that quality of the time that you're getting in the destination, and I think that's something that feels like it could really be a future for cruise where you get over that hump of feeling like you didn't get to spend enough time in each of these destinations.
Nice. We're also thinking about accessibility, which is probably unique when we're talking about luxury brands, but I think that is a promise that we all are thinking about. And I think it goes back to the core vision of the brand that was started 20 years ago, is this asset-light model, where you don't need to own something to have this amazing bespoke experience that feels like ownership because it's consistent and it's what you're looking for. But we continue to innovate, and so for every private flyer, we're developing products for them. So all the way from a seat, so we have shared flights consistently between New York and South Florida, our biggest market. It's in fact one of the biggest private aviation markets, where you can purchase a seat for starting at about $1,500, all the way up to chartering your own aircraft, or having a VistaJet program that feels like owning your own aircraft, all the way up to aircraft management. So really one place to access that without owning an asset. And we think this is moving the industry forward because, like the Ubers and the Lyfts of the world saw, there's a lot of assets that sit on the ground underutilized. So a private jet is flown about 250 hours a year on average. Ours fly between 1,000 and 1,500. So it makes it more efficient, and we can pass on those efficiencies to our customers, and we feel like it's really the way of the future for private aviation.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everyone.